Usually, when an eclipse happens, right, all the attention completely fixates on the sun.
Right, which makes total sense.
Exactly. I mean, the sun is this massive, burning, chaotic ball of energy. You know, you can't even look directly at it without hurting your eyes. It just commands the entire sky. And when things start to go dark, the sun is what everyone points their cameras at.
Oh, for sure. It's the main event.
But the thing is, an eclipse doesn't actually happen because of the sun.
No, it doesn't.
Right. The sun is just up there doing what it always does, just burning, reacting, radiating total chaos. The eclipse happens entirely because of the moon.
The smaller, quieter body.
Exactly. This quiet, much cooler body that silently steps into the sun's orbit casts a very specific shadow and, completely changes the gravitational reality of the moment. It forces everyone standing on the ground to look at the sky differently.
I love that analogy.
Thanks. And that is exactly how we need to look at the screenplay, The Dovecote, for today's deep dive. We are flipping the script for you today.
We really are.
Because instead of staring directly at Mate, who is our son in this story, right? He's burning up from the inside under the crushing weight of his closeted reality and this terrifying family dynamic. But instead of just looking at him, we are mapping this entire story through the gravitational pull of David.
Which is such a fascinating way to read it.
It changes everything. We are looking at Mate's chaotic world entirely through the eyes of the boy who steps into his orbit and just alters his reality forever.
And doing that, it fundamentally changes the genre of the story, actually.
Wait, how so?
Well, think about it. If you only look at the narrative through Mate's eyes, David is just a catalyst.
Like a plot device.
Exactly. He's the quote-unquote love interest who just magically appears to push the protagonist's journey forward. Like he's only there to force Mate out of his shell.
Right, the manic pixie dream boy trope almost.
Sort of, yeah. But when you actively shift your analytical focus to David's operational reality, you uncover something much more profound. I mean, David is not a passive mirror reflecting Mate's pain.
Not at all.
No, he is an emotionally mature, fully realized young man who has already survived the exact trauma of the closet that Mate is currently drowning in.
He's already been through the fire.
Exactly. David is like a veteran walking back onto a battlefield he thought he had escaped. And he does it entirely by choice, because he recognizes a boy who is actively bleeding out.
Wow. Okay, so let's start at ground zero of that battlefield, which is the school atrium.
Oh, the atrium scene, yes.
Because if we map David's internal logic from their very first interaction, Mate has to be, without a doubt, the most bewildering human being in that entire school.
Oh, 100%.
I mean, think about the architectural layout of an 8th or 11th grade atrium. It's inherently panoptic.
It's exposed. It's noisy.
Right. Everyone can see everyone else. And Mate has just come from that highly stressful meeting with the principal, right? After the scuffle defending his little brother Ben's.
He's already on high alert.
It's extremely. So he turns a blind corner and boom, he physically collides with David. Now, in any normal high school ecosystem, a hallway bump yields a standard automatic apology, and you just keep walking.
Yeah, you just mumble sorry and move on.
Exactly, and David gives that standard apology, but Mate's reaction completely shatters the social script. He just freezes dead in his tracks.
Yeah, the neurobiology of that freeze response is critical here.
Break that down for us.
Well, Mate isn't just stopping. His autonomic nervous system is slamming the brakes.
Like a deer in headlights.
Literally. Meanwhile, David is just trying to navigate the hallway. He doesn't know that Mate is internally combusting at that exact second.
Right, how could he?
Exactly. But David does recognize him. And he actually tries to offer this localized peace offering based on the gossip he's likely heard around school.
Right, he says something nice.
Yeah, he says, I heard that you defended your little brother. Not everyone would do that.
Which is a huge compliment.
It's a massive acknowledgement of character, delivered in a public space where, social currency is everything for teenagers.
Yeah.
He is giving Mate a compliment that elevates him.
And Mate treats that compliment like a live grenade.
He really does.
He averts his gaze, gets immediately defensive, and basically snaps go to class.
It's so harsh.
It is. Now, put yourself in David's shoes. You just offered a totally benign, actually quite generous piece of social validation to a guy who looks like a coiled spring.
Yeah.
And you are met with outright hostility. I mean, the instinctive teenage response would be retaliation. Like, fine, be a jerk.
Totally. Any normal teenager would just roll their eyes and walk away.
Right. But David doesn't escalate. The script specifically notes his voice isn't hurtful, it's curious.
And that curiosity is the first indicator of David's incredibly high cognitive empathy.
He's really reading the room.
He is. He processes Mate's erratic behavior without the context of Mate's internal monologue. He observes the hostility, but intuitively detaches it from himself.
Like he knows it's not actually about him.
Exactly. David realizes, consciously or not, that Mate's aggression isn't about David at all. It's about the environment.
The panopticon.
Right. David sees a guy who acts like a trapped animal and refuses basic human connection. And instead of taking it personally, David just sort of files it away as a behavioral anomaly.
An anomaly that only compounds over the next few days.
Oh, it gets so much worse.
It really does. We see David trying to apply deductive reasoning to Mate's increasingly bizarre behavior. And that leads to what is arguably the most logical yet completely incorrect assumption in the entire script.
Ah, the Anna theory.
The Anna theory. Because David is gathering data, right?
He's playing detective.
He is. Data point 1. Mate keeps staring at him intensely from across the room. Data point 2. Mate is constantly hanging around Anna, who is pretty attentive and clearly harbors feelings for Mate.
It's a classic setup.
Exactly. So David maps these variables and concludes that Mate is suffering from severe normative heterosexual anxiety.
Which is such a logical conclusion for a teenager to make.
Right. He thinks Mate is stressing over how to handle Anna, and that his weird staring behavior is just the overflow of that social panic.
And it's a brilliant misdirection by the writer, largely because David is projecting his own past experiences of hiding onto Mate, but he's assuming the subject matter is different.
What do you mean?
Well, since David has likely already come to terms with his own sexuality, perhaps he is out to himself and maybe a select few, he doesn't immediately assume everyone who looks at him is harboring a secret same-sex attraction.
Oh, because that would be kind of arrogant.
Exactly. Instead, he applies Occam's razor. The simplest explanation is usually the right one. Teenage boys are awkward about girls.
So true.
So David stepping up during the big recess to act as a wingman is this genuine attempt to alleviate what he perceives as Mate's performance anxiety. He actually tells Mate, maybe she likes you. You don't need to be scared.
But the wingman routine violently derails.
Oh, it crashes and burns.
Mate reacts with visceral panic. He insists that Anna liking him would be a bad thing. And then comes the stare.
The stare is so uncomfortable.
David is trying to be reassuring, and Mate responds by just locking eyes with him. And the script direction is so specific here. The look is, quote, too long, too clear.
That breaks every fundamental rule of teenage male interaction.
It shatters them. David literally has to take a half step back, suddenly making the physical distance between them this tangible, visible thing. He tells Mate, you're looking weird.
He calls it out.
He does. And this whole dynamic peaks on the fire escape later, where Mate calls David out there to apologize, only to stand in total, suffocating silence.
Just staring at him again.
Yes. And David finally breaks the tension by calling it exactly what it is to an outsider. He says this is really creepy.
And the discomfort David feels there is palpable and entirely justified. I mean, he is on the receiving end of intense physical proximity, prolonged, unblinking eye contact, and zero verbal communication.
In a high school setting, no less.
Exactly.
Yeah.
In the hypervigilant ecosystem of high school, that combination of signals is a massive red flag.
Which makes David's next move almost incomprehensible if you don't understand his core psychology.
Right, because why would he stay?
Exactly. If a guy shoves you in gym class, ignores you in the hallway, and then stares into your soul on an abandoned fire escape until your skin crawls, the basic survival instinct is to walk away. Cut your losses.
Yeah, run in the opposite direction.
Why invest the immense emotional caloric energy required to decipher someone who is radiating such toxic, confusing energy?
Because David has an internal radar for hidden pain.
Say more about that.
He doesn't walk away because he is reading the subtext beneath the aggression. Look at the shoving match in the gym that happened earlier.
Right, when the PE classes are combined.
Yes, David pushes back during that scuffle. He maintains his own physical boundaries and refuses to be a victim, which is important. But he immediately senses that Mate's violence is hollow.
It's not real aggression.
Exactly. It's rooted in agonizing fear, not malice. David recognizes the shape of Mate's panic because he has worn it himself. Even if David hasn't fully correctly identified the source of the panic yet, he sees a boy who is drowning and lashing out of the water.
Wow.
To walk away would be a betrayal of David's own lived experience.
That transition from passive observation to active, deliberate intervention is where David crosses the border.
Literally and metaphorically.
Exactly. The physical spaces in this script do so much heavy lifting structurally. Take that combined physical education class on the sports field. There is a literal painted line on the basketball court dividing the two classes.
It's such a great visual.
It is. Mate is entrenched on his side, arms crossed, radiating this massive force field of do not approach. And David makes the physical choice to step across that line.
The geometry of that scene is just brilliant. David is crossing a territorial boundary, but he does it with complete disarmament.
He doesn't come in hot.
No, he doesn't cross the line and launch into a deep psychological probe. He asks Mate to play basketball. He just says, no one is volunteering. Do you want to, with me? Because at least you're here.
It's an incredibly sophisticated de-escalation tactic.
It really is. He uses self-deprecation to lower Mate's defenses, warning him, watch my hand, because I cheat.
Humor as a weapon of peace.
Perfectly said.
David is effectively saying, look, we can just exist in this space as two guys shooting hoops. The stakes are zero. I am not a threat to your secret, whatever that secret is.
Right.
He is actively trying to regulate Mate's spiking heart rate by just normalizing their proximity.
But Mate's nervous system is too hijacked to accept the olive branch at that point.
Just too far gone.
Yeah, his constant anxious glances toward Anna prompt David to bring up the Anna theory again, which triggers Mate's secondary defensive explosion. And that culminates in the physical scuffle in the indoor gym where the PE teacher actually has to rip them apart.
Which inevitably drags them back to that fire escape.
The creepy stairs scene.
Right. Mate asks David to meet him, and he finally manages to choke out this paradoxical half-truth. Mate confesses he attacked David in the gym because he knew David wanted to help, and he was terrified that if he allowed David to help, he would lose him.
Navigating that logic from David's perspective requires an immense suspension of ego.
I mean, seriously.
Mate is essentially saying, I physically assaulted you because the idea of your kindness terrified me.
It's the stray dog phenomenon. But let's take that analogy deeper for you listening. When a stray dog is cornered in an alley, its sympathetic nervous system is screaming at it to survive.
Fight or flight.
Exactly. You reach out a hand with food. The dog doesn't see food. It sees a hand entering its critical distance. It bares its teeth and snaps, not out of hatred, but out of total neurological overload.
It can't process the good thing.
Right. It cannot process the kindness because the fear is too loud. Mate is that dog.
And taking that further, a cornered dog isn't just looking to snap, it's scanning for an exit.
Oh, that's a good point.
When David steps down a stair on that fire escape and hugs Mate, he is doing two things simultaneously. First, he is blocking the exit.
Physically blocking him.
Yes, he is preventing Mate from fleeing the vulnerability of his own confession. Second, he realizes that verbal logic is completely useless right now.
The Anna theory failed. Rationalization failed.
Right. Mate's prefrontal cortex is completely offline. So David offers somatic physical reassurance.
The fire escape hug. The script describes it as brief, uncertain, but honest.
David literally uses his own body to absorb Mate's kinetic panic. He grounds Mate in the physical reality of the present moment. It is a profound act of emotional absorption.
He's a lightning rod.
Yes, he provides a physical anchor for a boy who is just floating away in his own anxiety.
Oh, what's fascinating is how quickly David extends this protective, grounding instinct beyond just Mate's physical body. He starts applying it to Mate's entire social ecosystem.
Which is a huge escalation of his role.
We see this immediately when David inadvertently meets Mate's 10-year-old brother, Bence, on the street.
Oh, the street encounter.
Yeah. Bence introduces David to Mate, completely unaware that they just scuffled in a gym and hugged on a fire escape. Mate instantly panics, his eyes wide, pretending he has absolutely no idea who David is.
And David has a split second to calculate the variables.
He sees the absolute terror in Mate's eyes at the prospect of his two worlds colliding.
Right, because Bence represents the family.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And David could easily assert reality. He could say, what are you talking about? We were just playing basketball.
Which would be the natural thing to say.
But let me ask you this. Is David being a bit manipulative here, though? By playing along, he's weaving himself into Mate's web of lies. Does he realize he's becoming an accomplice to the closet?
That's a really valid question, but I'd argue it's not manipulation. It's ego suppression.
How so?
David recognizes instantly that Bence is the load-bearing pillar of Mate's universe. If David exposes Mate's lie right there on the street, He introduces friction between the brothers. He becomes a source of threat.
He'd be the guy who ruined the dynamic.
Exactly. Instead, David falls on his sword. He takes the blame, telling Bence, yeah, we met last year, but I was acting stupid, so we got mixed up.
He completely covers for him.
He actively protects Mate's family dynamic, prioritizing Mate's emotional safety over his own need to be acknowledged as a friend. He basically buys Mate time.
That willingness to act as a buffer, to just absorb the awkwardness, is the very mechanism that forces David out of the anonymous, liminal spaces of the school and directly into the absolute heart of Mate's fortress.
His home.
Yes, his home. Which brings us to the black t-shirt sequence. And we have to dissect this because it is the linchpin of their entire physical dynamic.
The locker room scene is a masterclass in vulnerability and spatial invasion.
It really is. Mate is standing in the boys' locker room, naked, humiliated, frantically searching for his clothes, which have been hidden by bullies.
He is stripped of his armor, literally and figuratively.
Completely defenseless, and David walks in. Now, a lesser character would express pity, which would only amplify Mate's humiliation, or maybe launch a self-righteous crusade to find the bullies, making a huge scene.
Which Mate would hate.
David does neither. He assesses the practical, immediate problem. Mate needs a dry shirt to go to literature class. So David reaches into his bag and hands Mate his own clean black spare t-shirt.
To David, this might feel like a simple pragmatic act, but psychologically it functions like tracer dye in a water system.
Oh, I love that analogy, tracer dye.
Think about it. Mate puts on David's shirt. He is instantly enveloped in David's scent, David's fabric, David's literal dimensions. The shirt is slightly too big on him.
It swallows him a bit.
Right. David has unknowingly placed a neon marker on Mate, one that highlights exactly where the leaks in Mate's double life are.
That tracer dye theory is brilliant, because olfactory memory scent is the most primitive, inescapable sense we have.
It bypasses logic entirely.
It does. Mate goes home wearing a scent that does not belong in the Kovacs household. And his mother, Eva, who operates with the hyper-vigilant radar of a parent who knows something is wrong but can't name it, she locks onto it immediately.
Parents always know when something is off. And the architecture of the Kovacs household is rigid, traditional, and suffocating.
Very structured.
Eva notices the unfamiliar shirt instantly. It's an alien artifact in her controlled environment. She interrogates Mate and demands that this quote-unquote nice boy come over for cake. She wants to inspect the anomaly.
And Mate is completely paralyzed by this. The very next day, he tries to abort the mission. He corners David and practically begs him to cancel the cake date.
He's terrified.
He is warning him that his mother will interrogate them, that the whole situation is abnormal. But look at David's response. He doesn't offer Mate an out.
No, he doubles down.
He says, "No way we're canceling. I'd very much like to go."
David insists on stepping into the panopticon. He knows that if he wants to truly decode Mate, he cannot just observe him in the neutral territory of the school.
He needs to see the source.
He needs to see the ecosystem that manufactured Mate's fear. He needs to understand the pressure cooker firsthand.
And when he sits down at that dining table, David transforms into a diplomat.
Oh, he's so smooth.
The table is a battlefield. Eva has deployed a mountain of cake, and she begins the interrogation. She is probing, looking for cracks in their story, asking about school, how they became friends.
Classic interrogation, disguised as hospitality.
Exactly. And Mate is practically vibrating out of his skin, scratching the tablecloth, utterly incapable of navigating the conversation.
But David effortlessly absorbs the mother's anxiety.
Yeah.
He charms her. He eats the cake with genuine enthusiasm.
He's playing the perfect guest.
When Eva asks a question that clearly spikes Mate's panic, David smoothly intercepts it. He compliments Mate's drawings. He reframes Mate's sullen silence as artistic introspection.
Which mothers love.
They do. He gives Eva exactly what she wants, a polite, stabilizing presence, while simultaneously shielding Mate from her scrutiny.
But the friction is too high for Mate. Hearing the word friends spoken aloud in his own dining room feels like a scalpel.
Because he knows it's a lie.
Right. He knows what he actually wants, and he is terrified that his mother can read his mind. He slams the table and bolts upstairs, abandoning David to the wolves.
And David's reaction is to just politely excuse himself and follow Mate directly into the inner sanctum, Mate's bedroom.
The confession on the rug.
This is such a pivotal scene.
It really is. David finds Mate huddled on the bed. David sits beside him, and then we get the inciting physical incident. The unstable tower of old DVDs collapses.
Just a sudden, loud crash.
The sudden noise, the physical danger, it spikes their adrenaline. David pulls Mate off the bed to shield him, and they crash to the floor, tangled together, faces just inches apart.
That adrenaline spike is crucial. It entirely bypasses Mate's prefrontal cortex.
The filter is gone.
The overthinking mechanism shuts down, leaving only raw, immediate truth.
Mate finally exhales a secret. He whispers, I think, I'm in love with you.
Now, focus entirely on David's face in that exact second.
Right, his reaction.
There is no shock. There is no wide-eyed realization.
Yeah.
There is no stuttering.
He just smiles, looks down at Mate, and calmly says, then what are you waiting for?
Then what are you waiting for? That single line recontextualizes every interaction they've had.
It changes everything.
David has known. The failed Anna theory, the creepy fire escape stare, the desperate physical assault in the gym. David ran the calculations weeks ago.
He was already 10 steps ahead.
He was never in the dark. He was simply holding the space, absorbing the erratic behavior, waiting with infinite patience for Mate to catch up to reality.
Yeah.
He let Mate set the absolute pace of his own coming out.
So they kiss. The pressure valve finally releases. But because this is the Kovacs household, the universe refuses to let them have peace for even 1 minute.
Of course not.
The door is pushed open, and 10-year-old Bence walks in carrying a metal canteen. He sees them on the floor. He drops the canteen.
Yeah.
Clang.
The sound of reality crashing back in. It is Mate's absolute, ultimate nightmare materialized.
Mate turns the color of ash. He is paralyzed. He instantly attempts to gaslight his little brother, stammering about the DVDs falling, trying to weave this frantic, transparent lie.
He goes right back to the script.
But David overrides him. David pulls back, maintaining a completely regulated nervous system. When Bence asks, what were you doing? Your faces were really close. David doesn't lie.
This is so important.
He looks at the child and calmly says, yes, they were close.
Why is that so important? Because David refuses to participate in the architecture of Mate's shame.
He won't build the closet.
If David scrambles, blushes, and lies, he telegraphs to the 10-year-old that what they were doing was dirty, criminal, and wrong.
Right, kids pick up on that energy.
They absolutely do.
Ah.
By maintaining a calm, unashamed tone, David stabilizes the room. He confirms the physical reality without turning it into a scandal. It's an extraordinary piece of crisis management that protects Bence from inheriting Mate's internalized homophobia.
At this point, David seems practically superhuman. I mean, he's patient, he's a strategic diplomat, he handles the mother, he manages the brother, he absorbs the trauma. He finally gets the boy he likes.
But there's a catch.
A huge catch, because the narrative takes a brutal pivot right here. Winning Mate's affection means inheriting Mate's closet. And this is exactly where David draws the line.
The park bench scene. This is where David's empathy hits its structural limit, and it results in one of the most empowering yet agonizing moments of the entire narrative.
They are sitting on a bench in a liminal, semi-public space near the school. David suggests a standard low-stakes date. He says, let's take the bus to another district, go to the movies, take a walk.
Just a normal teenage stuff.
He just wants to do what normal teenagers do. But the mere suggestion of public visibility causes Mate to react with furious panic. He yanks his hand away when David tries to hold it.
Like it physically hurts him.
He treats David's touch like a radioactive burn that will expose him. Mate harshly shuts down the idea of the movies, terrified that someone from their school might magically be in another district and see them.
And up until this exact moment, David has accommodated every single one of Mate's fears.
He's bent over backwards.
He has been the shock absorber. But here, Mate makes an impossible demand. Mate is demanding that David shrink himself. He is asking David to consent to a relationship that exists exclusively in the shadows, fueled by constant vigilance, paranoia, and denial.
And this is where David's unseen history breaks the surface. He looks at Mate and says, do you think I didn't go through this part? The terror, the lying, having to control my every single move lest someone see who I really am.
It shatters the trope of the savior character. David isn't an angel sent to guide Mate.
He's not just a plot device.
Exactly. He is a survivor of the exact same war. He has the scars to prove it. He knows the physiological toll of scanning every room for threats, of policing your own hand gestures, of lying to your parents every time you leave the house. He fought brutally hard to escape that psychological prison.
So David makes his choice. He looks at the boy he loves and he says, I refuse to live in the dark again. Not even for you. And he stands up and he walks away, leaving Mate alone on the bench.
It's heartbreaking.
It is. Now let's really interrogate this. If you are 14 years old and the person you love walks away from you when you are terrified of your strict father and your gossipy school, isn't that abandonment? Isn't David failing the ultimate test of loyalty by leaving Mate in the danger zone?
It definitely feels like abandonment to Mate, absolutely. But clinically, it is the exact opposite.
Okay, unpack that.
It is the establishment of a life-saving boundary.
Yeah.
First, David has an ethical responsibility to his own mental health.
Yeah.
If he agrees to Mate's terms, he steps back into the trauma of the closet. He slowly erodes his own hard-won identity to coddle Mate's fear. He would destroy himself.
You cannot set yourself on fire to keep someone else warm.
Precisely. And more importantly for Mate's development, if David stays, he validates Mate's core toxic belief.
The belief that it's something to be ashamed of.
Exactly. If David hides with him, David is tacitly agreeing that their love is, in fact, shameful and dangerous. David walking away is the ultimate shock to the system. Mate believes his fear is protecting him. David's departure proves to Mate that his fear is actually destroying the only genuine connection he has.
The vacuum created by David's absence is exactly what forces Mate's hand. That very night, Mate goes home, stands in his living room, and detonates the bomb. He comes out to his parents.
And it is not a clean break.
It is messy, it is catastrophic, because Mate's father, Gabor, discovers that Mate, in a moment of sheer panic days prior, had kissed Anna in the park to throw people off his scent.
Right, using her as a cover.
Gabor, a man deeply entrenched in traditional honor and patriarchal rules, is enraged not just by his son's sexuality, but by the fact that his son cowardly used a young girl as a shield.
Which forces David to pivot instantly from the boundary setter back to the crisis diplomat.
Because Mate is banished to his room by his furious father, and at that exact moment, David arrives at the front gate. He is holding a white cardboard box of cake, the reconciliation offering Mate had promised him. David walks right into the epicenter of a domestic explosion.
Just put yourself at that wrought iron gate for a second.
I'd be terrified.
You are a teenager. A furious, red-faced patriarch is standing between you and the boy you came to see, and you know you are the catalyst for his entire worldview shattering.
The biological imperative is to drop the cake and run.
100%.
But David anchors his feet. Gabor is venting his rage, furious about the lies, furious about Anna. David looks this imposing man directly in the eye, and he delivers a masterstroke of psychological reframing.
So good.
He says, when a person is terrified of losing their family, they do stupid things. Not because they're a bad person, but because they're panicking.
Look at the sheer brilliance of that translation.
Yeah.
David doesn't excuse the behavior regarding Anna.
No, he doesn't defend the lie.
Instead, he contextualizes it in a language the father understands. He translates Mate's actions from malicious deceit into desperate survival driven by filial love.
He centers the family.
He de-escalates a patriarch's rage by appealing to the father's core vulnerability, assuring him that his son loves the family so intensely that the mere thought of losing them drove him to madness.
It effectively disarms Gabor. He steps aside and allows David into the house. He literally trusts this teenage boy to handle his son when his own parenting tools have failed.
Which is wild when you think about it.
It is. So David goes upstairs to Mate's bedroom. Mate is a wreck. He is crying, hyperventilating, probably expecting David to wrap him in a blanket and tell him his father is a monster and everything is going to be fine.
But David doesn't offer unconditional validation. He offers unconditional support, which is very different.
He holds his feet to the fire.
He puts the cake down, looks at Mate, and demands absolute accountability.
Mate confesses the truth about kissing Anna to hide, and David draws a hard line. He tells Mate that trauma and fear are not a free pass to create collateral damage.
You can't just hurt people because you're scared.
He points out that Mate dragged an innocent girl into his vortex and used her feelings against her. David tells him, if you really want to own who you are, then you have to own your mistakes too. He demands that Mate be a better man.
This is the crux of David's maturity. He refuses to infantilize Mate. He recognizes that true liberation isn't just about declaring your sexuality. It's about taking responsibility for the impact your fear had on others.
However, David's pursuit of truth and accountability leads him to make his first massive miscalculation in the narrative.
Yes, the very next morning at school.
The incident at the lockers.
It's a crucial reminder that David is still a teenager, prone to overestimating how quickly someone can heal.
Right. Bence, the little brother, and Anna, the deeply hurt friend, formulate a plan to force Mate to be totally transparent. They rope David into it. First thing in the morning, the three of them, David, Anna, and Bence, corner Mate at his locker in a crowded, noisy hallway.
The worst place to do this.
They form a literal firing squad, demanding he stop lying, apologize properly, and take responsibility right then and there.
Mapping David's internal logic, you can see why he agreed to this. He likely viewed it as a show of solidarity.
Like an intervention.
A united front, proving to Mate that his closest circle knows the truth, accepts him, and demands honesty. But David completely miscalculates the half-life of Mate's trauma.
Mate has been out of the closet for roughly 12 hours. His nervous system is entirely shot. He hasn't slept. And now he is cornered in the most public, panoptic space in his life, the school corridor.
It's too much too soon.
The firing squad approach triggers a massive regression. Mate explodes. He slams the metal locker door, screaming at them. He lashes out, telling them they have absolutely no idea what it feels like to live in a state of constant terror, waiting for your parents to disown you, waiting for the school to turn on you, and he bolts. He runs right out of the building.
And the instant Mate screams, you can see David recognize his error. He demanded finish-line behavior from a runner who had just barely survived crossing the starting line.
He pushed too hard.
He forgot that just because the secret is out, the neurological habit of fear doesn't magically vanish overnight.
So they have to fix it. David, Anna, and Bence sprint out of the school and track Mate down. They find him leaning against a brick wall, gasping for air, completely depleted, and the resolution here shifts away from demands and back to grace.
Which is what he needed.
They apologize to him. They acknowledge that their ambush was cruel and that they fundamentally do not understand the specific agony of his terror. In return, Mate sincerely apologizes to Anna for using her. The air is finally truly cleared.
Which perfectly sets the stage for the final, quiet triumph of David's long game.
The fire escape.
Yes. Later, they find themselves back in the cold, concrete stairwell of the fire escape. The exact same geographical location where Mate used to stare at him in silent panic. The exact place where David had to block the exit to hug him.
But the dynamics have entirely inverted. Mate doesn't freeze. He doesn't avert his eyes. He takes the initiative. He steps forward, grabs the lapels of David's jacket, and pulls him into a kiss.
It's such a beautiful moment.
He proves, physically and unequivocally, that he is done hiding. And the script notes that David is so moved, his eyes fill with tears.
Those tears are the release of months of hypervigilance. David realizes the war is over. He no longer has to decode aggression, intercept anxious mothers, or absorb kinetic panic. The boy he fought for is finally standing on solid ground.
If we pull back and look at the totality of this arc, David's journey is staggering.
It really is.
He went from a confused classmate absorbing a defensive shove in an atrium to a deeply empathetic observer decoding a boy's terrifying mixed signals. He utilized humor as a shield, offered his own clothing as a tracer dye into Mate's life, charmed a suffocating mother, protected a 10-year-old's innocence, and drew a brutal, necessary boundary in a park to save them both.
He did the work.
He ends the narrative sitting in the strong sunshine on Mate's terrace, drinking cola with the family, an equal partner.
It is a testament to the sheer power of grounded empathy. David didn't drag Mate out of the closet by force, but he fundamentally refused to step into the dark with him. He simply built a safe harbor just outside the door and weathered the storm until Mate was ready to walk out.
As we close out this deep dive, I want to leave you with a thought to turn over in your mind, something that exists entirely in the unwritten margins of this screenplay. Think about the prequel to this story. Think about David's life before page 1.
The unseen crucible.
Exactly. We only get to meet David after he survived the absolute hell of coming out. He tells Mate about the terror and the lying, but we never saw it. How much of David's infinite patience with Mate was actually David actively healing his own past trauma?
That's a powerful question.
When he absorbed Mate's panic on the fire escape, when he stood his ground against a furious patriarch at the gate, when he demanded accountability instead of offering pity. By guiding Mate step by step into the light, David wasn't just saving Mate.
He was rescuing the younger, terrified version of himself. He was reaching back through time to provide the exact guide, the exact tough love, and the exact unwavering safe harbor that he likely desperately prayed for when he was the one suffocating in the dark.
By being the quiet, steady moon that stepped into Mate's chaotic, burning orbit, David didn't just cast a shadow. He absorbed the blinding heat, altered the gravity of Mate's entire universe, and forced everyone to look up and see the sky clearly for the very first time.
Beautifully said.
Thank you so much for joining us on this deep dive into the hidden layers of the Dovecote. It's a powerful reminder that sometimes the most heroic character in a story isn't the one making all the noise. It's the one quietly, firmly refusing to step back into the dark. We'll catch you on the next deep dive.